So, good afternoon, everybody. I think I'll try and do justice to what after Mr. Karnik has spoken about the CSR and the 2%. So, a warm afternoon. I think we have a tremendous panel here. I think we'll have to excuse Mr. Deepak Maheshwari. He couldn't make it to the panel today. So, I think we have about 40 minutes to get through the discussion. So, just to set the tone, I would just throw out a few statements, then I would ask the panelists to speak a few words about what they've been doing with their companies and the work they're doing. And we're trying to take this discussion as a question and answer format so that we are able to get more views on what they think about the CSR and managing it for impact. So as statistics are to be believed, we're going to see 8,600 crores or more of money coming in, which also some stats says that about 74% of the companies have been spending their 2% or are intending to spend some money in the 2%. There are also statistics say that only 41% of the companies are actually spending the 2%. So these are different statistics that are there. To just have an understanding of how practitioners like Manju and Anurag and Meenakshi approach this as a issue or as an area where they need improvement. Let me just pass on the mic to Manju and she could start with her work.
Do you want me to talk a little bit about Microsoft? Yeah, great. So I could start off with that to set a context. So first, I'm going to congratulate whoever put the agenda together to talk about managing impact because I've been in the development sector for 21 years. 21 years back, I joined small NGO in a very small place in UP. Then I moved to funding agencies. Then I moved to UN. And after UN, I moved to Microsoft. And I think one of the challenges I've faced in every job that I've been part of is how do we look at sustainable impact at scale? And that is a conversation even now. I think we are no longer closer to finding a solution 21 years down the line than we were there. So I'm very glad that we're talking about this. Just to talk a little bit about Microsoft, because the panel is around impact. I'd also like to speak about our CSR from that perspective, that how do we look at our programs. So there are two principles that we always follow when we look at corporate citizenship program. So we just don't have CSR, we have a broader umbrella of corporate citizenship at Microsoft. And I think the two principles for us is we believe that technology can empower every person and every organization to do more. So technology is the core competency that we bring in. So we always take that as the first thing, that where technology can make an impact. And then what we look at is what does the country need? What are the priorities for the country? What is the government trying to do? Because we know as a corporate, there's only that much we can do. So we do want our efforts to complement what the government is doing. That can get reflected in two forms. Either we look at what the SDGs are, we look at what the government's mission mode programs are like Digital India or Make in India, and we always align ourselves to those efforts. Having said that, the broad programs that we have is that 70% of our investment in corporate citizenship go to a global, it's a global theme that we have, which is about empowering young people by creating opportunities for them around three axes. By providing them education, skilling and employability, entrepreneurship, and promoting entrepreneurship and innovation in the country. So this is our large strategic program, and even our CSR aligns to that. The second program that we have, of course, it's not just CSR. In fact, CSR just constitutes about 2% of that broad program we have, which is about inclusion of people with disabilities. 2% CSR, yes, but the broader program is about how we look at our products and design. How do we make sure they're accessible to all people who will face disability at some point in time. It is also about how we hire, are we hiring people with disability. It's about policies and practices, changing them. And a certain part of it is about working with youth with disability, skilling them and seeing how we can help them get into a job or start something of their own. The third program that we have is Technology for Good, because we realized that our strategic grants program where we actually work with nonprofits for 3 to 5 years can only be for some NGOs. We cannot work with more than a certain number. So we've created this program where we look at the competencies that our employees have, the technology that we have, and seeing how we can actually take it to the larger number of nonprofits that we have, which are actually doing good in the community and helping them create, I think, a larger impact. So if we were talking about models of impact, these are our strategic programs. But there is another level of programs we do that we realize that there are also smaller local issues that we need to look at. And we want to create flexibility for including those programs. So we have an employee giving program. We raise a large amount of money through that, where our employees are free to choose a theme and an NGO and contribute to that. So broadly, these are our CSR programs.
Great.
Thank you for this opportunity. And from at Capgemini side, we are working on 3 thematic areas, and these are where we put in our resources, look at local areas where we are our business is located at, and these thematic areas are we call them 3 E's: education, employability, and environment. And what we are trying to do is to look at those NGOs who have the potential to upscale the work that they are doing. So the numbers become very important for us. Second is we look for model which has the potential to get replicated. So one is not interested in a model which may be very good in, for example, at Noida, but it's not possible to replicate in other areas, because then you lose the whole stream. Then you are creating something in each of these places, create an island of excellence, and then you are left with that. You are not linking those things with other locations, and then creating a critical mass which will be interested for, I'll say, government to look at, or agencies who are bigger in shape, size, to really look at and then work on those things. And third is to look at those projects which has, or those NGOs which are created by people who come from the same constituency. For example, we work with rack pickers in a big way, and we work with rack pickers who, organizations who are created by rack pickers themselves. We work with people with disability. We look at organizations who are created by, or who are at the center of these organizations, who themselves are also people with disability. We have a program of sponsoring girl child education, and we look at those girls only who come from very stigmatized background. I am talking about girls who come from a commercial sex workers background, or girls who come from girls with HIV positive, girls who are on the street or from the street, girls with no parent, single parent, girls from observation homes, girls coming from so-called unclean occupation like rack pickers or manhole cleaners or manhole scavengers. The aim again is what we said, that we are not going to limit our support to one specific period. Meaning which we are not going to discontinue our support once you complete your primary or secondary. But what we said that we wish to continue our support till you wish to take that particular support, which means that till you wish to study, we are there to support you. Because the idea is that if even we get 50% out from the work that they are involved with, that's a huge gain, because we are starting with zero. And we also said that we are not seeking 100% result from this particular program, because it's not possible. I know it's a very, for us at Capgemini, it's a very emotional program, because we started with 1,000 girls. We have 1,000 employees also who are part of Mentor for these 1,000 girls. And we know that we'll be losing out some of these girls in the process, because no matter what you do, but there will be some girls who will get pulled into sex work. No matter what you do, but you lose some girls because they are at the advanced level of HIV. But we said that till they are there, let them experience what education is all about. And what my both said, that the icing on the cake will be if we can get some girls from this particular segment back in Capgemini as Capgemini associate, because that's what we are seeking, and that's that's what is going to change the way we do our CSR. Because let them become part of what we are doing at CSR, and let them also change, influence the way we do our business. That's the one particular program that we are working on. We work very actively with government or government institutions. We said very clearly that we are not going to start any schools, but we are going to work very actively on schools, which means that we work with government schools, because we realize that these days only poor are sending their kids to government school. No one else is sending their kids there. And amongst poor also, poor who comes at the very, very bottom end of the class structure, they are sending their kids to government school. How we can improve these schools? And that's where the whole focus on infrastructure development, focus on software part, focus on what Manju was talking about, on bringing digital environment there. The other element of our work is the employability training and making sure that people get trained. But for us, the number of people who got trained is not something that we are very, very happy about, but we are very happy about the number of people who get job after the training, because the important indicator for us in the whole journey is that provide everything possible to them, but to make sure that they get the job end of the day. Otherwise, you are not being very successful there. We have our employability center, we call it LEAP Academy, and LEAP is livelihood education through action against poverty. We created the center for children who come, or youth who come from economically challenged background. But I made it very clear to all my NGOs that though the center is for poor, but the center should not look like a poor center. Center should have all the facility that so-called paid centers have, and which means that bring in the best of tech, bring in the best of equipment, bring in the best of teachers, bring in the best of resources there, so that the youth can experience, feel very proud that I'm going to that particular center, getting training there, and then getting the job after the training is over. And the third element which we focus on, and in the employability, what we have said that we should have at least 25% of what we are doing in training should come from people with disabilities. So that's the focus that we always have. And feel very happy that this year we are clocking around 28-29%. So the 25% number we have crossed. And which means that next year the number will be a bit higher than the 25%. And in the environment, the focus is primarily on waste management, because we realize that though the Swachh Bharat campaign talks about removing all the garbage from streets and other places, but it's not talking hugely on what you are going to do with the garbage that you are collecting. And that's where the waste structures that we are creating in some of the major cities are primarily looking at how you are going to segregate, how you are going to recycle them, and how you are making sure that none of these waste gets into the landfill. So, but the focus primarily is to work with NGOs, and feel very proud that we work with around 45 plus NGOs directly, another 20 of them indirectly with other partners who are part of this particular process. And the journey has been, I'll say, with certain pluses, certain minuses. We are still learning, partners are learning. And this is just second year of, I'll say, CSR bill. And everyone is expecting huge amount of stuff from the second year itself. So give it I'll say, we need to wait. The 8,000 is not the right figure. There is a huge amount of figure which is not getting reported, and that particular figure is from those companies who are not listed. And that particular figure will be much, much bigger and heavier than what we are quoting today. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Anurag. So, Meenakshi, you interface with corporates like Microsoft and Capgemini. So, just say a few words about what you do.
Sure. So, thank you, sir. So, I work with Charities Aid Foundation India, and I'll just give a very quick overview of how we work and who we are actually before that. So we are a not-for-profit organization, and our purpose is twofold actually. One is to promote the culture of giving, and when I say giving, it's not just the money, it's also the skills, it could be the technology, it could be, the efficiencies that we talk about in the corporate world, and vice versa, from the NGO sector to the communities, etc. So how do we promote that culture of giving? And on the other hand, we focus on increasing the flow of resources, again, resources in multiple terms towards the NGO sector. So with that commitment, we work with a number of people who want to engage with the social development sector. And so we have been working with about 300 corporates over the years to provide advisory sort of support in terms of what to do, how to do, where to do, who to partner with. So those are some of the things that we sort of look at. So our journey with the corporate starts with understanding what their corporate focus areas, core business areas are, and then what would be relevant for them or what their interest areas might be in terms of engaging with the social development sector. Once we have sort of taken that journey, we move on to find appropriate locations, appropriate NGOs to partner with, and then of course the hand-holding of the entire grant making and impact measurement processes to take the projects to the conclusion, learning, and then again, getting into the next cycle of program management. To do this, we have a number of support services. I mean, whether it's CSR, philanthropy. We also have the philanthropic work that we do through our payroll giving program. Again, in that we engage with the corporates where they encourage their employees to donate towards social development sector. And what happens through that is that it's not just the money that comes to the NGO, but also variety. I mean, there's a huge engagement that happens through that effort, and which actually plays a much bigger role, to support the NGOs.
Oh, thank you, Meenakshi. So, to just start off our discussion, Manju, I'd like to go to you first. So we heard Srikant saying that there's a huge number of organizations out there. They say there are about 3.2 million NGOs in the country. And the first step is to start identifying how you work with NGOs. So as a CSR leader, what is that process of, there is noise and you have to drill it down to people you want to work with. And what goes into that effort?
So, Santosh, how much time do I have? I know that we stand between lunch and, so, let me just
I think
make sure.
we'll just have three minutes and
All right.
a couple of
Okay,
questions.
great.
Thank you.
So, I think I'll first like to start off by saying that for the CSR program specifically, Microsoft doesn't work directly in the field. We partner with nonprofits, and there are two models that we look at, and I think it's important for me to clarify that before I talk about how we select our partners. The two models that we work is that we have strategic grants that we work on with a nonprofit from 3 to 5 years. Now, with those strategic nonprofit partners, we work directly. And I would, or my team would be engaged with them. The monitoring and evaluation, everything would be done by us. The groundwork would be done by nonprofit. The other model that we follow, because it is not possible even with that approach to reach more than, in a period of 3 to 5 years, we would not partner with more than 3 to 4 nonprofit as part of that grant. But we have another model where we are ensuring access to affordable technology for a lot of our nonprofit partners. Now that program we do in partnership with NASSCOM Foundation. So we partner with NASSCOM Foundation, but NASSCOM Foundation in turn partners with a lot of you, and in fact, probably Microsoft is not even known to own that program. That's a program almost owned by NASSCOM Foundation. The third, and very similar to that model, is how we work with Charities Aid Foundation. Because as I said, that there are many issues that our employees believe that they would like to contribute to. They would like the flexibility to also look at issues like health, which are not core part of my CSR. How do we get them to work with those issues, or how do we work with more nonprofits? We work with Charities Aid Foundation, where the employee gets a choice of a nonprofit. They can actually engage with the nonprofit, but the work around seeing what the projects are doing is done by Meenakshi and Meenakshi's team. So now to the question that you asked, Santosh, that how do we select partners? So as I said, for employee program, of course, it's fairly easy because our employees have certain nonprofits they would like to work with. But just on the strategic grants, I think it's a combination of we look at who are the non-profit partners who align to the same thing that we are trying to drive. Now, one part of sustainability is definitely that if I go and work with an NGO whose core is skilling and employability, then what will really happen is that they're not just looking at my funds to continue the program, right? They're also going to look at other donors who can get in the fund. So the good thing there is my confidence level is that if after 3 to 4 years, if I cannot fund them further, how will this project continue? So whatever impact we've created, is that going to fall apart? So that's a big thing for us. Again, and this is a challenge as well as an advantage when we look at a non-profit is that since we do not really work with more than 3 to 4 NGOs in a strategic way over a period of 4 to 5 through the grants, we do want to look at an NGO which has a larger presence than just, let's say, one state. So that is a criteria for us because we do want to work with a non-profit who works in at least 3 to 4 states, which are strategic to Microsoft as we look at inclusive growth in the country. So these are 2 criteria, but I do want to share something here, if you'll allow me to, and I hope nobody really takes an offense. I get a lot of mails from non-profit partners, people who don't know me, people who have heard about me, writing in saying, we would like to collaborate with Microsoft. Now, I do want to share this here, that what makes the difference between a one mail and a second mail, what makes me actually pick up the phone and say, yes, let's meet, will help you drive your mission of ensuring digital inclusion at every rural household. Now, it was also an arrogant mail because it just presumed that, it was said in a way that, I have a proposition for you. But I loved that mail because here was a person who's actually gone ahead, done their groundwork, understood what I want to do, and then said, how does that align to what they want to do? And then come to me and said, this is what, why don't we meet? And I think that's one thing that we do look at, that when I talk to a nonprofit, what is it that they want to drive and how close that is that to what I want to drive?
Great, Manju. Thank you. Thank you for that. So, Anurag, the question to you is that we've heard a lot about the Sustainable Development Goals, the new ones after the MDGs. So, does that also feature in a discussion in a boardroom? And how do you does that influence your decision making?
No, at the construct level, it certainly impacts the way we are designing our CSR implementation and also the strategies. But I'll say we'll have to give some more time to really percolate down those ideas to the NGOs, because if you look at CSR bill and the CSR fund which is available, I'm not looking at before 2014 era. I'm looking at post 2014 era where we have a platform where corporate and the NGOs can come together, use the fund and do some of the activities. What Manju has rightly said, that one is looking for a situation which has an excellent marriage between what I desire to do and what the NGO's capabilities are. Once these two matches, then it becomes easier to do that particular thing. What we have done in the last 2 years is that we brought the whole discussion on social, economic and the environment back into the boardroom, which was missing out earlier. So we were only looking at the bottom line, and which was primarily about how much revenue and the profit that we are making. So the CSR board, CSR subcommittee within the board has in a way resulted into a discussion around social, economic and the environmental discussion, which was not there earlier. So that's the point number one. Point number two is that with a larger organization like us, which has around close to 100,000 employees there, you then bring the whole discussion back into the employees level, where you start talking about these three things, start building alliances with the employees, with the locations where they are based out of, and then look at the NGOs who are working in those areas. So right now I'll say that we are running multiple projects, multiple projects on social, multiple projects on economic, which is through skilling and employability, and on environment. Now, another year or so, then we'll start looking at the numbers on the impact side, because right now, I don't think any project should be talking about impact because it's too early to talk about it. Most of the corporates, if you ask them, reach out to them, they started their the structured CSR response after October 2014 or December 2014. Unlike Microsoft, you started from April 2014. Yeah. I also read. And no, I'm talking about the structure after the CSR bill. But you were having a CSR subcommittee also at the board level? Okay. And most of the companies, they started August, September, November, December. So 2014 was a kind of washout. And then this year it has increased the speed, increased the intensity also, and that's where you'll find most of the projects are getting launched. Impact will happen after 2-3 years. You'll have the output and the outcome numbers available within a year or two. And that's where the SDGs are in focus of our discussion, are in focus of when we are mapping the indicators, but we have not looked at how much we are achieving on that particular thing, because we'll have to give some more months for that to really happen.
Thank you, Anurag. It's really scary to think that 6,000 crores, and many companies are just starting to figure out what they want to do with CSR. But Meenakshi, as you represent a lot of NGOs as an aggregator organization, I just want to know what has changed since the 2% CSR has come into force.
So I think quite a bit. The funds, definitely, because we were seeing a change in our economy, change in, certain other socio-political realities in the country. So funds for the sector have been drying up. So funds definitely, but I think as I see it and what the NGOs give me feedback on, the biggest part is the engagement. So yes, the NGOs traditionally have engaged with their local communities for whom they're delivering services, but they didn't really engage with the wider population of middle class people and all. If somebody wanted to come and volunteer, yes, but now with this huge engagement with the corporate sector, while the people working with corporate sector, whether they are employees or the